Allowing me to come, Donna. This is really nice, and I'm learning so much here, and I hope that I won't be redundant with what Lori has just said. But my background, of course, is in broadcasting, and so I'm more on the reporter style. But I want to tell you that I just came off of hosting the Who's Who in Asian American Communities Awards last Saturday, and it is by sheer coincidence that Lance Holland is here from Encyclomedia because they do the production work, and it's huge, it's wonderful, and we're just so honored that they would do such a small show for us, because I know the scope that Encyclomedia does. But our little claim to fame is that the WWAAC Awards, as we call it, is the only televised Asian awards program across the country. So that's our goal, just to keep it out there to give Asians a voice. But I do all of the pre-production, and I have to write the scripts for our videos, and it's for the 5 honorees that we recognize. And you know, that is a big task, because these people really don't have a lot of videos in their stock, so they can't send really good stuff. And I do it in a very linear fashion. I usually start as a child and then build up to the career, and then who they are today, and then wow, and get them on the stage. But the task is to make them feel like they are the most special person, you know, for that night. And it's so much fun to write it, but there's so much that you can't put in, and you have to cover it with some type of visual, right? So that's the task there, because a lot of people don't have video, so they'll send me little stock of you know, a little tiny little photo, and so that's part of it. But we love it, you know. And then we do a mini documentary every year for it, and it's how Asians came to America and our contributions. So that's part of what I do, and I tell you that because even though I'm not in broadcasting now, I still do that video work, and it's very important to me. There are all kinds of types of videos, and I think you mentioned some of them. You know, the how-tos, you know, how to sew. But there's training, there's inspirational, motivational. A lot of you are trying to do a lot of things online. Man, if you can motivate people while you teach something, you've really got a niche there. But all kinds of things, pitching, the marketing. But let's talk about storytelling. And we have little Coco Pelli here. Okay, he is probably one of the original storytellers, and now we've just made it into video. But his little story there, he's a hunter, a fisherman, but our task now is to keep that story going. We all have stories in us, and if you learn to write, to tell a story, and to evoke that emotion, that's what you want. You want to connect, you want to grab. And also, you want to make sure that your video is something that is shareable and that you want to share, but on a positive side. I've received a lot of videos where, can you believe how bad this is? So we don't want to go on that way, okay? So make it very likable. All stories have the beginning, the middle, and the end. And when I teach public speaking, it's the same thing. It's stating, it's supporting with your data, with your research, and then coming back at the end and summarizing. Repetition is so good to drive home that message, but you don't want to beat people over the head. You want to be very creative in your writing and very subtle that you're beating them over the head. There's always, in the drama part, the protagonist, the conflict, and then the resolution. And you might not need that in the video that you're creating, but that's part of the storytelling. There's always the drama, you know, the elements there. But one of the biggest things that I think, and one of the most important things that people overlook, it's your music. Choose your music to match exactly that emotion that you're trying to get. Think about Jaws, okay, that dun-dun, dun-dun music. Every time you hear it, what do you fear? You fear sharks. Or then you think about something like Gone with the Wind, where it's free-flowing and pretty in the old South before the Civil War. So that is part of getting that emotion. So don't overlook that part. Very important in your video. And if you can, be very objective and present your story, tell your story through someone else's eyes. That way you're not beating someone over the head with my opinion. And you do that through interviews. When I in broadcasting, a very seasoned producer helped me because I was thinking about what stories to pitch to the assignment editor. And he said, you can't go wrong with children, pets, and old people. And what did you do? You have this darling little boy. Who's that little boy? Who's that little boy? You know, it becomes bigger than the fabric. So if you can incorporate it, and next time I see you, if everybody's using a pet, then I know, oh no, that didn't work. Okay, we want to use the interviews. It's so important because, again, it's not me telling the story. You have someone else on the scene. And if you, for example, in this one, where there's a disaster area, you have a reporter out there, and that reporter interviews someone who has suffered some terrorist attack. Or even, let's go to the lighter side, maybe quintuplets, where it's a happy thing. Still, if you get the interview, maybe, yes, maybe that's not happy. Let's just say, twins. Good point, twins. So you get them to tell the story. And that is that emotion that is flowing. And then what the viewer is going to see, oh, look at that mom with those cute little babies, right? Children. Creating the story, reporter style. We all know the 5 W's, who, what, when, where, why, and then there's a how in there. That is so important to put that and outline it. It's just like in literature or in English. Outlines are always somebody, you know, people always say, oh, I don't want to do that. It is so important because you put it in the right order of letting the story flow. So outlines, please do not overlook that. And the interviews. When you conduct your interview, then you can use the services of Copy Talk. This is an actual script from several shows back. But I write in black, that's what I want to say, and then perhaps Copy Talk, if I had used them, would put it in red. So I learned how to write around what we call sound bites. Don't just throw an interview in. Make sure that you write around it. There's nothing worse than for something to come up abrupt. It's just like, whoa, that's a disconnect. Why would they do that? So if you can write, use something like Copy Talk, put it in there, and then you know that the story will flow. Okay, we've done the outline, the 5 W's, the writing the script, conducting interviews. Then you want to voice it, and then it goes to edit, like to someone like Encyclomedia. Those are just the basics, which you probably know anyway. Look at this swoosh. Everybody knows what that is, right? It's branded. And that's what you want to do in your video. You want to start branding whatever it is, because you want people to automatically associate when they see that little swoosh mark. And then you want to make sure that the customer wants their perspective in this as well. And you want to tell them about the product and then sharing what is so important about this product, about this service. You want to make sure that is incorporated in there with that branding. And you know, you think about branding, you look at Coca-Cola, Open Happiness. I mean, how short is that, but the message? Or UPS, we love logistics. So it's that very short, simplistic, but yet they get the message across. Every time you see that, you know it's Nike. Okay, here it is. You can do something different. You can use your models or your actors if you want. Make it different. Make it very creative. Just make sure that you use imagination. And humor is a great, great thing. Everybody loves that. Okay? You want to get the message out there, but you don't want to overload. You don't want to do a shotgun approach where you think, you know, if I say this and this and this and this and this, then somebody's going to get something. No, stay very focused. Try to maintain one point that you're trying to drive so that eventually it'll be narrowed down to that swoosh. It'll be narrowed down to opening happiness. So don't do an overload because people will just glaze over. It is just too much work for them. And repetition is good as long as it's not the same thing over and over. Be very subtle how you come back, but push that message. And if you don't have a customer, but you're trying to do a generic, tell them who you are. Tell them about your services. Tell them why you need to buy my product. And that will cover that. But stay focused on that message to make sure that you don't lose your audience. I saw this panel discussion, and it was from this group from Kaplan. And they were talking about the Aflac duck. And it was the advertising agency. They said this landed on their desk right in the morning. They were talking about it like, oh my gosh, how in the world are we going to market and brand this thing? Big New York agency. They all broke for lunch, went for a walk in Central Park, and guess what was in the pond? Quack, quack, quack. And then somebody said, oh! And then do you know that is one of the biggest successes right here. So that real creative thinking, and I don't think any, thing at the table, any suggestion, don't poo-poo any idea because you never know. It might just be the Aflac quack. Look at this story, and Lance, you might remember this. This was a picture, an ad from Buick in our WWAAC program book last Saturday. And when I got it to send over to the graphics designer, I did one of those, yes, because this is a Buick ad, right? Do you see a car in there? No. No, but you know what? I saw someone who looked like me. So make sure that you go after the demographics that make sense, that will resonate with and connect with your audience. So I was very, very happy to see that. So look for that creativity. And never, ever underestimate your client. They're the experts. Listen to them. Because you might have these bright, educated, experienced opinions, but if you don't listen to your client, they're not going to be happy, and they will not come back. So it's very important. They're the expert, and also they have that driving passion for their product or their service. They know what they want. Look at this ad. It doesn't say that this organization is going to wipe out child labor. But see, it's got a price tag on it. This message is so powerful and it's so impactful. And I bet if you were flipping through a magazine, you'd stop, you'd go back and you'd look at it and you read it. So simplicity is very important, and you don't even have to say it. That's the whole point. You don't have to spell it out. But if you have the right visual, then you might get that second look. Let me ask, talking about videos and creating. All right, we're commissioned from the U.S. Navy, okay? All of us, we're all on the same team. What would we put in a U.S. Navy commercial, a 1-minute commercial?
A big Navy ship.
Navy ship. All right, we got one of those.
Flag.
A flag.
The person that we want, like we were trying to target.
Good.
Uniform?
Uniform, good.
Planes.
I'm sorry?
Airplanes.
Plane. All right, we got. What about an old person? Got to have an old person. Donna, will the music be real loud on this? Do I have to?
I think it's going to be
Okay, because that's very important.
The call to serve.
Can you?
It has no sound, yet I have heard it. In the whispered retelling of honorable sacrifices made by those who have served before me. The call to serve has no form, yet I have clearly seen it. In the eyes of men and women infinitely more courageous and more driven than most. The call to serve has no weight, yet I have held it in my hands. I will commit to carry it close to my heart until my country is safe and the anguish of those less fortunate has been soothed. The call to serve is at once invisible and always present. And for those who choose to answer the call, for their country, for their fellow man, for themselves, it is the most powerful force on earth. America's Navy. A global force for good. To answer the call, go to Navy.com or call 1-800-USA-NAVY.
Okay, we had everything you all said, but there was compassion. They were in there pulling people. It looked like maybe Hurricane Katrina. You know, there was compassion, there was that emotion. And I'm so sorry that that volume wasn't really loud, because if you hear it really loud, I mean, you just get goosebumps. And that's what you want. You want to make people go, wow. You want to make people go, ooh, that was awesome. So that's what we're driving for here. Creating the video that will make people look again, send it to their friends, and say, man, that is awesome. Thank you.
Did you want to mention that you have a...
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, and I have a public speaking video